like I said, you don't need a lot of horsepower. You don't need the, you know, high-tech anything. G'day everyone, Adam here, Larissa, going Overland. This week I want to do a quick video about towing on sand. We've got a fair bit of experience, so I thought I'd just share some of those things that I know and I've learnt with you guys, and hopefully help you guys out. Main thing is confidence and tyre pressure. You don't need speed, you don't need horsepower, you don't need anything like that.
My main thing is ask Adam to take over.
Confidence, tyre pressure. So we did this big heavy setup, anyone can do it.
Yeah, practice.
Alright, let's get into this week's video. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and yeah, get into this week's video. Let's go.
Yeah.
Woo!
Alright, where was that?
Alright, so sand towing. So there's a few things a little bit different to when you're just driving on the beach without a trailer. It's a lot more to think about because it's a lot easier to get stuck, harder to get out of it when you are stuck. So step one, do your research. Kids are having a great time. Beautiful beach, white sand, crystal clear. But I want to show you something. Like in Queensland, you drive down, a lot of people drive down near the water. But down here, I've done a lot of, you know, YouTube videos watching and stuff. You don't, because it's so soft. Have a look. It's like quicksand. It's like quicksand. Have a look. You're just sinking it. You were to drive on this. If you were to drive on this sand, I don't even think Max Tracks would get you out of it. You'd sink up to your frame real quick. So yeah, drive up where everyone else has been driving. You'll see the tracks just in front of the dunes, and that's what we've been doing. Step one, do your research. Know what sort of beach you're driving onto. Is it a really soft beach? Is it nice and easy to drive on? Tide times, check all that out. Any permits you might need as well. Make sure you do all your research before you go onto the beach. Second step, before you air down, check out what the beach entry is like. How low do you need to go? Is it too steep? Is the tide the wrong time? Don't want to stop.
No, don't stop.
No pressure! Totally none!
Well, there'll be no way coming back past this now.
Oh gosh.
That's actually no pressure.
Go down and have a look before you drive down there, because when you're towing, you know it's harder to turn around and get out of a situation. And backing up out of a hill, up a hill with the trailer, near impossible. So just go for a little walk, take you 2 minutes, stretch your legs, go have a look. That's step two. All right, so we're down, tyres are bagging out really nice, especially the trailer. So should be right to go. First time we've run these wide tyres on the beach, so should be really good. It's exact same track as the Patrol now, so we're not cutting different lines for the trailer and the car. All right, we got to hurry though. Tide's coming in.
Fast.
Always a bit nervous first time driving down on the beach, especially when you're fully loaded. We are heavy.
Yeah.
We got heaps of water, fire.
And the sand's really soft.
Sand is soft. Yep.
Yeah.
Fully loaded for over a week. We've got a lot of gear on.
This is gonna be fun.
All right, Daddy's got to focus here.
Yep.
Sea spray, Hayley.
We're on the beach. So before you drive onto the beach, make sure you've got plenty of experience both on the beach without a trailer, right, and towing a trailer. Because the first time you're towing a camper trailer, you don't want to come down the beach. It can be a disaster if you get it wrong, right? So make sure you got plenty of experience in both fields before you bring them together. Hey, Larissa.
Yeah, definitely. Like I even feel a little bit out of practice with driving the trailer on the beach, especially the soft stuff.
Yep.
Because sometimes the trailer wants to wiggle around.
Yeah, that's right. So right now we've got the tides on the way out. Plenty of beach to drive on, but there's still places where we have to drive on the soft stuff. Get around cars. There's a few gutters and places where the beach is very narrow. So you still need to have your wits about you and your experience for those places. You can be caught out very quickly, you can. Another good idea too, first few times you go camping with your camper trailer on the beach and you're towing on the beach, is pack light. Go minimal. We did it this trip, we were very heavy and we felt it and we struggled. And if the tide was a little bit later, or a little bit earlier I should say, we could have been in big trouble. We could have really struggled. One of the trickiest things is going onto the beach or off the beach. It's usually the softest, most chewed up part of the drive. And the key to that is your tyre pressure and the correct momentum. And by momentum, I don't mean speed. We usually do it in first gear when we're not towing. When we are towing, it depends on how steep it is, how much of an incline it is.
You made that look easy.
You don't want to start slow and then try and build your speed up. You just want to have that constant speed, the appropriate speed, going off the beach or onto the beach. Usually when you're going onto the beach, you're going downhill, you go as slow as you need.
It is, isn't it? It's bogged. Yeah. Whoa! You can't even get yourself bogged when you try to get yourself bogged.
Yeah, so look, I was just stuffing around a little bit. We put it in two-wheel drive. I've sunk the rear end, put it in low range first gear and just crawl out of it. So, like I said, you don't need a lot of horsepower. You don't need the, high-tech anything. Tyre pressure, confidence, just relax.
What tyre pressure were you running?
We're on about 16 PSI we are right now. We can go a lot lower if we need to. But one thing that does help is we got big wide tyres.
So Adam's on a mission to try and get the car bogged so that we can show you how to get out of it, but having a hard time even bogging the car today. So anyway, it's all good. Almost looks like it's bogged. What are you trying to do, Joe?
Bog the car.
Bog the car?
Then
You're gonna need more than that.
And then we gotta test the lunch
You're
truck.
gonna need more than that.
I know, I need help.
What are you up to, Hayley?
I'm digging a hole so Dad's car's
Oh, so, okay. So he's gonna go up on one side, down on the other.
Yeah.
Alright.
Expensive.
Haley.
I know, I did good.
Oh yeah.
That's my hole right there.
Oh gosh, don't pop it off the bead though.
Okay, let's see if we're bogged.
One second, wait. Whoa. Hold your phone.
Alright. Kids versus Dad. Take one. See. Oh yeah.
Ha! You fell straight.
That's it. We're gonna have to take a tire off.
Yeah.
I can't see any other way.
We have to beat this truck. We have to.
No. So max trucks are
Well,
pointless because you can't get bogged.
yeah, I mean the sand's reasonably soft, but it's not
Yeah.
super soft.
No, actually if it was really hot weather it'd be a lot softer.
Yeah,
One way to wear out your kids, tell them to get you bogged.
Got enough?
No. Yeah, well, no.
Want a hand, Joe?
If you can't beat them, join them. Oh, you guys done well. That's pretty deep. Yeah.
Yes!
Alright, now he's bogged. He asked for it, didn't he? Should we
Yeah.
tell him that the diff's up to sand now? Yeah.
Okay, so if you get stuck on the beach, don't panic, especially if you know what the tides are doing. Best thing to do is get out, see what's going on. You might have to dig some holes, get your recovery boards out, which you should have if you're towing. You should have 4, possibly 6, even better. Put them underneath, and if you're getting stuck and you've been struggling a lot, drop more tyre pressure out. You can go as low as 10 psi if you have to get out of a situation. Remember at that pressure, drop your speed, don't steer too sharply, minimise your braking because everything is sort of floating on these big balloons you will be. So you've got to be very careful that low. Just like the Simpson Desert. So, perfect example of the wind factor. Right now we're headed north up the beach and I'm doing 40 kilometers an hour. There is no wind in the car at all. So, when we were coming up, we were into the wind, the engine was working real hard, temps are sitting around half, thankfully. If we were going the other way, they would be skyrocketing because there is no airflow through the radiator because we're doing the same speed as the wind. I don't know if the GoPro will pick it up, the wind noise. No wind noise at all, is there, Hayley?
No.
Look at her hair getting blown around. It's not at all. But on the way back, we'll have a 80 kilometre an hour headwind because we're doing 40 kilometres an hour into the 40 kilometre an hour wind. So you've got to make sure you keep your eyes on your gauges because they can shoot up no time at all. It's just something you've got to really pay attention to. If you're not used to it, it can really catch you out because, yeah, it doesn't matter what sort of car you've got. If you don't have that airflow, your engine's working hard, especially towing, yeah, you can run into big problems again. Alright, we're stocked up, we've swung around, we're actually headed south now into the wind. And you can see Hayley's hair. Her window's mostly up too. Put your window down. It was down on the way down. Have a look. Now look at this wind we're going into. So we got like double the wind speed going through the radiator now, and even without the load on, temperatures are quite low, they are, in the radiator. So you got to, yeah, keep that in mind. A couple of things you can do if it's running hot, you're going with the wind. You can turn around for a while and let the wind go through the radiator and cool off. It'll only take a couple of minutes. If you're towing, it might be very difficult to turn around. Another thing you can do is put your heater on, put it on full, get a little bit more cooling capacity in your system with the heater on. Another thing is to do is to stop, put put the bonnet up and try and get a bit of airflow through that if it's running hot. If it's manageable and it's not creeping any higher, you're fine to keep going. But just if it keeps going hotter and hotter and hotter, you have to change something. You've got to do something to get that temperature down again. Okay, another key thing to think about is when you've got plenty of beach to drive on, is whereabouts on the beach to drive. So you've got to keep left. Usually you indicate to let people know, especially if it's not obvious where they're planning on going. We usually stay well above the wet sand. So sometimes we'll indicate and be on the wrong side of the beach. That's because a lot of people like driving on the really hard stuff. We don't like driving near the salt. So indicate where you want to be on the beach. And make your movements obvious on the beach where you're going to be driving. Don't just veer a little bit to the left or to the right. You know, go a nice steady turn, not too sharp, but appropriate enough to let them know what you're thinking.
Yeah, don't assume everyone else, you know,
is watching.
Don't assume everyone else has good experience either.
Yep.
So
that's right. Some people are panicking on the beach. They're freaking out, and they want to drive on the really hard stuff, and they think if a little bit on the soft stuff they'll get bogged. They can cause you a lot of drama. You might end up having to stop in your tracks because someone less experienced who's panicking is coming towards you. A great row to knots, right where you need to be. So you've got to be thinking on your toes. Another important thing when you're towing, just like any other time you're on the beach, is make sure you don't do too much steering input. You don't oversteer it, because you'll have no steering, it won't turn, and then all of a sudden, if you're turning too much, it'll dig in and you'll cut across, pop a tyre off the bead. Think like floating on it, so you're sort of drifting on water, and your car will float across and then back a little bit the other way. You don't have to be, there's not a lot of obstacles, so you don't need to steer it sharp. Don't try and stay in the tracks if it's not going to follow it. Just float across the sand. It's smooth steering, it's really important. And once you get that around your head, you stop panicking as much, because a lot of times when you're panicking, you're oversteering, you're trying to keep it straight, you're trying to keep the power down. Just smooth flowing actions. Steering, braking, accelerating, it's all got to be smooth. So as you see here, just let the car wander a little bit, making sure we're going down the beach. There's a tight track up here where people have gone around something, so I'm going to start steering early. Not fighting the steering wheel.
whoa.
And it's just nice and smooth steering. Making known track here. Engine's working a little bit, but we're getting down to the hard stuff again. No problem at all. Don't oversteer. Especially when you're towing, because if you've got that trailer, you can start a big pendulum motion. Car and trailer working against each other and slow you down. And you certainly don't want to be jacking off in the trailer on the sand. Nice and smooth. So one of the critical things on the beach driving is the flotation you have. So there's a couple of different ways to get flotation. And think of it as a boat in water. When they get on the plane, they get up over the water. They skim over the water a lot easier. They're not bogged down in the water. Same with your tyres. If you're digging into the sand, you're creating a lot more friction. It's harder work on your engine. It's harder work on all your gear. So if you can float across the top of it rather than dig into it, it's a lot easier going. So the sand is a big thing. Depending on how high the tides are coming up, will depend on how soft it is. Some beaches it's the grain, how grainy it is, how much it packs down. Others it's the slope of the beach, the wind. A lot has to do with a lot of different factors with how hard the sand can be. It's out of your control too. And each beach is not uniform the whole way. So sometimes it's really grainy, really soft. Sometimes it will get really hard along the same beach. So that's sort of a bit out of your control. Another thing is speed. Sometimes the faster you go, the more you can float up on top of it. But then you've got washouts, you've got cuttings where you've got to go in and off the beach. you know, you can't do 80 kilometers an hour there, so you're limited there as well. The one thing you can do is your tire pressure. So as we showed, the lower you go, the easier it is. We're actually running 19 psi on the back of the car, not 16 on the front, 19 on the back, and about 17 in the trailer. And they're different because of the weights. The trailer is only one set of axles, but it holds a lot more than the front of the car does. So I've just pumped one of the tyres up to 28 psi in the front. Still got 19 in the back, and I'll just show you the length. You might be able to see it on the tyre, you might not. So this tyre's got 28 psi. And you can see it's probably a bit longer than my hand across the bottom. Now this tyre here's got 19 psi, and it's quite a fair bit longer. It's actually moulding up over this bit of sand here, and we can go quite a bit lower if we need to. Alright everyone, we're going to pack up. We got a ferry to catch, we got to get out of here. Look, yeah, I hope you got some tips out of that. Let me know if I've forgotten anything. I'm sure there is. There's always millions of little bylaws and layering to every rule. There's an exception. So look, just take some tips from it. Get it there, give it a go yourself, have some practice, build up your experience. It's a lot of fun driving on the beach. Love it. Don't do it enough. Alright, let's get back to Brisbane.
Oh, the fishing rod.
Go wash the car.